Well, thanks for tuning into the Zealous Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week I've got Pat Dugan on with me. He's the performance coach for the AHL Providence Bruins. That's right, it's kind of the development team for the Boston Bruins. Pat's going to get on and share all he's doing with this team out of Rhode Island. In the meantime, check out Satanta College if you're looking for higher education in the form of maybe a master's degree in applied sports biomechanics and movement science, applied sport and exercise psychology, performance coaching, and sports injury and return to performance. Go to SatantaCollege.com, throw in the coupon code of RS10, RS10, and get 10% off your tuition today. All right, here we go with the show. Well, Pat, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You know, I was raised in the era of, we'll call it the OR era, in the 70s and 80s, especially the 70s, when you're real young and very inspired by sports heroes, Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, Hodges. I mean, the names just keep flowing out of my head. And here you sit with the Bees, and we'll just get right into it. First, welcome to Zealous, Pat, and how you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm doing great. I'm relatively new into podcasting, so I appreciate any opportunity I can to hop on and enjoying the conversation we're having so far.
Right on. All right. So we have a few things in common, right? We've both grew up on the north suburbs of Boston. You in Methuen, myself in Reading. And I don't know about you, but I was hoping to be the greatest strength coach to come from Reading, Massachusetts. I'm going to say that you're probably one of the greatest strength coaches to come from Methuen, Mass. But then, damn, Mike Boyle, he moved into my hometown. I understand he's leaving pretty soon, but you know, he ruined my ideas of that, just crashed them to the ground. But we also have that in common. So you worked with Mike, but why don't you, just before we talk about Mike Boyle, strength coach, and your career path, how about your educational path? After you left, say, Methuen, did you go to Methuen High?
I went to Central Catholic, one because I was an awful student, and Methuen High at the time was basically a giant warehouse that they rolled like bookcases to divide classes in, and I would just not succeed anywhere close to that environment. So I was fortunate enough to go to Central Catholic, played hockey there. Um, yeah, you touched on Mike Boyle. I actually went to Boyle's as a kid, and then undergrad at University of New England. Actually had zero idea what I wanted to be in undergrad, so didn't even do. I think I touched on exercise science a little bit, but even like as a kid, I hated the gym growing up. Just despised working out. So it's just wild that I'm one in this field, but also two, like my entire life is at this point pushing myself to be better and to like to push myself in the gym and sleep and nutrition and things like that. So it's a wild 180 from how I was as a kid. So
That's awesome, Pat. I swear, if I had my glasses on and a black hoodie, we'd be twinning it right now. Obvious age difference of probably 20 or 30 years or whatever, but same exact thing. UMass Amherst, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, the advisor was like, you just spin the major wheel every semester. We'll see what it lands on next. And sometime down the road, maybe you'll graduate. But timber harvesting, climatology, fine arts, education. It never landed on exercise science. In fact, I had one class at UMass Amherst on exercise science and human performance. I think I got a D in it. It was just so, but it was just so boring to me. I just couldn't stand sitting in a class all about the Krebs cycle. It was lost on me. And it wasn't until later teenage years I started getting into the gym and started liking it. So it's cool to know somebody else had no idea what they wanted to do. They fell into their passion and they've been pursuing it ever since. So that's cool. So you grew up playing hockey, pond hockey, I imagine, when you couldn't get to the rink, right?
yeah, for sure. I mean, everything was like, I'm sure growing up outside of Boston, you driving into school, listening to sports radio, talking about sports during school, playing sports in gym class, listening to sports radio after school on the way to whatever sports you're going to, and then my family always had dinner around the TV, watching whatever game was on at night. So played hockey watched hockey, listened to sports radio about hockey. My parents tried to put me in everything, soccer, t-ball, name the sport. I probably tried it, but it was always hockey if you fall back on. So
Right
yeah.
on. Yeah. I think everybody's grandmother wears a Red Sox hat in New England. I mean, that's part of the law there. And if they don't, they've transplanted probably 50 years ago, but they're still considered a transplant. So you went to University of New England, and you've got your master's too, correct?
Yeah, so after the University of New England, moved back home again. I got my undergrad degree in I think environmental studies is what I ended up getting the actual degree in, having no idea
Sweet.
what I wanted to do.
English literature. Excellent.
Yeah, there's a lot of law enforcement in my family, so kind of thought the law enforcement route. There's each state has a different title for it, but it's basically like game wardens or environmental police. So I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. Law enforcement, but like, not sitting in a cruiser running radar on a highway. Like I'm out on a four-wheeler or in the harbor on a boat, things like that. Got a job at Lowell General Hospital doing security, because that's basically a psych ward what they have there, and they put you through a mini police academy once you get the job. So it was a great segue if I wanted to go the law enforcement route, because you're getting into, unfortunately, physical altercations every day, with people at the worst possible point in their lives. And I knew pretty early on in that job that that was just not for me, not what I wanted to spend every day doing. Um, right down the road was UMass Lowell, and just walked into the gym one day and said, can I see what you guys do? Can I, just get a glimpse of what strength and conditioning is like? And they were fortunate enough to take me in for a week, and I was like, I'm sold. Like this is in. At that point, the bug of not wanting to work out ever wore off, pretty well at that point. So I was already into working out and things like that, and learning about, if I do X, Y, and Z, this happens. And I'm like, man, I wonder why. And I kind of caught the bug just because I didn't like what I was doing in my day job, basically.
Dude, you
So
just
yeah,
walked in. That's all. You just walk. You didn't like go online and do a whole bunch of research. You're like, I think I'll just go in the gym and ask around.
yeah, it was literally Lowell General Hospital, UMass Lowell was right down the street, and I was like, I'm just gonna drive there. Just went in, just walked in.
Yeah, from
I
one crazy house to another. That's cool.
Yeah, insane. So, um, yeah, it's crazy. So then once I was like, this is incredible. This is an actual career path. I actually started doing some research and things like that. Merrimack had a great program that they had just started up. Merrimack College is right down the street from my house. Merrimack
Nice.
College is in North Andover. So I was like, I can do this, live at home, don't have to add to my already outstanding student loan balance, and um, got the fellowship there. But again, I applied there with having no strength and conditioning experience whatsoever. So I had to do some summer classes. So first day of summer classes, again, just like UMass Lowell, I just left class and walked into Merrimack Strength and Conditioning Center and said, can I just observe? Can I do anything? Can I start to gain some knowledge in this field? Because, this is literally first day of summer school here, and I'm starting on square one. And Coach Kamal and Coach Leach over there were in the office, and they're like, yeah, there's a process for this. Like you don't just walk in and ask and we say yes. There's a process to this, but submit a resume, and they put me through the ringer of a couple interviews and things like that, and uh, they eventually let me start observing. They basically took my schedule and filled in the blanks between I was doing classes in the kind of the mid morning, early afternoon, and I was bartending at night. So they said that's great. Football gets here at 4:45 in the morning, and you can be here until your class starts at, I think it was like 9 or 10 o'clock. And then there's a little bit of time between your last class and bartending. So like, men's hockey or soccer, or someone's lifting in that time. So be here then. And I think that was kind of their way of like testing of like, all right, if you're offering help, we're going to put, 60 hours a week on your plate while you're taking classes and while you're bartending. And we're going to put you through the ringer and see if this is something that you're going to be, dedicated to. And yeah, I put my nose to the grind. So unfortunately, I was like I said, living with my parents, so I wasn't, didn't have to do too much at home, and kind of just was out the door at 3:50 in the morning and back at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was my summer. And then yeah, the fellowship actually wasn't even open because I applied so late and I didn't have any experience. So at the end of the summer, Coach Kamal pulled me aside and said, "Hey, just you know, do you have any interest in a fellowship?" And I was like, "It's half off tuition." So yes, I do. And the fellow that was at Mike Boyle's just dropped out of the program, so that's open. So because you've done June, July, August here at the rate we've used you at, like we'll try to set that up and as best as we can, and that ended up just falling into place, and that was that was the start of my actual fall semester, and then they go, now that you have a fellowship, actual classes and bartending, once you get those schedules, we'll fill in the blanks again and let you know when you're going to be here. And
Fantastic. I love this. I love if listening audience, press rewind, take some notes there. I mean, Pat, you got out of your comfort zone. You're willing to be vulnerable. You walked into a situation you were unfamiliar with just to see, is this something that I can do? And they tested you all through the summer, and you persevered and you followed your passion to the point where opportunity presented itself and the door opened up. I love it. It's not the first story. This is your story is unique in the way that you did it, but it's not the first story that we've heard from previous guests of how they got to where they are. We beg, borrow, and steal. We scratch and claw our way. We look for opportunities, and when they present themselves, we say yes. The answer is no to every question left unasked. So if you don't ask, then the answer is no, but you ask. So right on, man. That's fantastic. So, okay, take me from there, like on your road to the Bruins. How did that happen?
Yeah. So, right after that, it was the rest of the school year was that, right? It was just, I was at Merrimack in the morning, went to Boyle's when that fellowship started, classes basically throughout the middle of the day, and then either Merrimack, Boyle's, or bartending at night for the rest of the year. And then when I graduated, I was fortunate enough to be hired on Mike's staff as a full-time coach, which those of you who aren't familiar with Mike's system, the only way you're a coach is if you go through that internship program, right? They don't just hire a coach off the street. You got to go through that basically a semester long internship, and then a certain number of those, depending on the year they're in and how you are as an intern, certain number of those get hired. So I was fortunate enough to be one of those basically interns that was hired in must have been May or June, whenever that graduation was, right? And then did that until all the way through to the following December. So I was at Boyle's. Merrimack's coaches were crazy enough to let me hang around there, still just observing and learning and things like that, which was great to get kind of the duality of the private sector, but also the college sector, but also Merrimack has a phenomenal strength and conditioning program, and they have phenomenal graduate assistants that come in with just mind-blowing experience of I graduated top of my class at Springfield, and I'm coaching alongside this kid who has got his master's degree, and that's his first experience in strength and conditioning. So it was an unreal experience to kind of get that, like I said, the duality of those two fields, or the two sides of the fields. And then Clarkson University opportunity came up in December, and that was just on a job board that I just applied for. Mike knew Tad Johnson, who's a strength coach at Clarkson, because Mike's daughter went to Clarkson to play hockey for, I think it was about a year or two. And then but again, it was just saw on the job board, applied for it, and then just let Mike know, as hey, I applied for this position, and I went through that interview process. I got that job. For that job was technically only supposed to be for the Division III teams, and the way Clarkson is set up is hockey is Division I. Top 10 in the nation in men's and women's routinely. Women's have a couple national championships, but everyone else is Division III. And I said, okay, I'll take the Division III job. And I'll do it to the best of my ability. I'll dedicate all this time in. But, you know, if I were to show up to hockey lifts, would you kick me out? And it was like, no, like that's not, like, we're not going to pay you for that. And I was like, that's fine. I'll take care. And it just ended up being, you know, a lot of the Division III teams were done either early in the morning or very late at night, and the hockey programs were in the middle of the day. I'm like, that's perfect. That lines up perfectly, right? D3 in the morning, D3 at night, hockey in the middle of the day, and that was it. So that was, you know, from December, even, you know, COVID happened in that year in March, but thankfully hockey was still rolling pretty strong. You know, everyone was home, but we were just still sending them stuff and getting stuff back and things like that. So I was able to see a little bit of that. But then that full fall of next year was basically a full go. So,
That's
D-
awesome. I
D3.
mean, if we look at if there was a family tree of strength and conditioning, and we put Mike at the top, you are on one of these branches. And for the listening audience that hasn't listened to my conversation with Mike, just go back in the archives. And while you're there, you might want to check out Mary Kate Fates or Mike Potenza. Mike was with the San Jose Sharks for a while. Now he's director of performance for the Golden State Warriors. Mary Kate's one of the professors over in Springfield College. I mean, there's some big names in the industry who all roads lead back to MBSC, Mike Boyle Strength Conditioning. And Mike himself, I mean, obviously he's had the connection with the Bruins, BU, and so on. So he's maintained those connections. You know, you just build your network, and it's nice that you can benefit from some such things. But it's not just who you know, it's what you put into it. And it sounds like, man, when did you sleep, Pat? I mean, was it only like 3.5 hours a night for 10 years? Or like, how do you sleep today? What's your, because you mentioned at the beginning, oh, I was interested in sleep. Yeah, probably because you never did it. And you're like, oh, there's something new I haven't learned. How do you actually get to sleep? All kidding aside, like, sincerely, how much do you sleep these days?
These days I'm pretty good just because of the way the schedule is set up here. In the AHL, a lot of our games are played on the weekends. So, you know, game days are obviously, you know, I don't sleep much, but during the week and practice days we're able to sleep, or at least I'm able to sleep, mainly because, you know, that's, like I said, I'm interested in it. That's where I put my priority right now. I think, um, you know, I don't have a wife or kids. I do have a puppy, but she's been unreal with, like, when it's time to sit down and chill. It's like, all right, let's sit down and chill. She's a chocolate lab, so like you can't
Oh,
mess up a lab, right? Like they're just like they're the most, you know, people pleasing dogs you can possibly imagine. So, um, so like the puppy is the only, you know, outside of the rank responsibility that I have that would alter anything of sleep or nutrition and things like that. But again, that's just where I put my priority. Like if I have a dinner or if I have a drink with someone, I'll go out and I'll grab a dinner and a drink with them. Like I still like to live life and things like that. But yeah, right now, you know, my health and putting myself in the best spot as I'm, you know, turning 30 over the summer is a huge priority. But yeah, just get your work done during the day, and you'll have plenty of time to sleep, as long as you're not, there's no watching Netflix or binging anything, things like that.
and now, so you're head performance coach for the Providence Bruins, the AHL team, correct?
Correct.
And I imagine, you know, with developing organizations, developing teams, you don't have the deeper pockets that the Boston Bruins do, the NHL teams, but you do have resources. And how many hats do you wear within your organization? Like, aside from strength conditioning, performance director, are you doing the sports science also? Like, what are your roles?
Yeah, my roles are all the above. So basically anything that has to happen in Providence, so, you know, performance related is my role to do. Like there's no interns or anything like that. So anything that has to get done is on my plate. We're fortunate enough where we're, you know, 45 minutes away from Boston, so we have some staff like a nutritionist and a sports psych, and a lot of our developmental coaches and skating and skills coaches split time between the two ranks just because of the proximity to one another. So we're fortunate enough to have that where, you know, if there's a nutrition things that come up, you know, it's, you know, our nutritionist is here on Tuesday this week. Let's chat with her when she's here. There's still that liaison that happens, and I'm still part of that conversation, but it's not something that's totally on my plate just because she's here and we're able to talk to her and things like that. But yeah, everything, the warm-ups, workouts, cool downs, the sports science, all that data stuff, supplements, meals, travel a little bit, but again, we're going to Springfield and Hartford. Like, we're not making, cross country trips and things like that, but I mean, it still gets factored into their workloads and things like that. So,
you deal with the travel logistics, like the equipment, or is that somebody else? Do you have an equipment manager?
Yeah, no, not the actual logistics of it, more just the getting in the know of what's going on, where we're staying, things like that, the meals that are on the road, when we're practicing on the road, the extra skills on the road. Last year, I started to not travel for the overnights, to stay back with all the injured guys to rehab them properly and make sure we have eyes on them, because we have, a PT here, we have a skills coach that comes in, and the gym was the part of that equation that was lacking in my first year, and then in the years prior with Tim Labossiere, who's up in Boston, lacking not because that was a choice, lacking because it's like, hey, there's only one strength and conditioning coach. Like, he's either traveling or he's not traveling. Like, is what it is. So we decided to switch that up a little bit and get a little more on the rehabbing guys when the team's away on an overnight trip. But again, through the Zooms and the virtual stuff, I'm able to be there on the road through the extra skates and the morning skates and extras lifts and things like that. When they're on
Well, I imagine too, when you're traveling, you've got like game day -1. You're not going to be doing high intensity training necessarily. It's probably going to be a lot more mobility, resistance bands, just getting out there and getting some time on the ice. I mean, is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, mainly because, like you said, game day -1, you're not doing much. But even if you had much to do in the AHL, like, we don't have the resources that the NHL has, like you kind of just touched on, right? We're not traveling to a spot that has the cart of, the power blocks and the trap bars and the weights and the benches and things like that. Like, we basically have, we're required to provide 2 bikes, a couple bands, rollers, stability ball, and that's basically it. And then even then, it's like, how much are teams willing to spend on the bikes they're giving and the stability ball and things like that. Some teams are better than others. You go to Springfield and they have, like, basically a mini NHL cart, which is what we're trying to work towards. But again, it's just the limiting resources. Like, do we want to spend $3,000 to make this cart, or, probably not. So,
Yeah, that's a
so
reflection of the ability to coach, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you could have a duffel bag, and in that duffel bag, you maybe have some gliders, maybe a stack of blaze pods. You've got your bands, you got maybe a medicine ball and a pump with stability ball. And as far as I'm concerned, you're squared, you're set. Yeah. Anything above that and beyond is kind of luxury. You don't really need it if you know what you really need to do with your athletes.
yeah, we basically have our travel trunk, and everything we fit in there is what we're able to bring and give to these guys. So it's mainly, like you said, game day -1, you're not doing stuff. But when you have a game day and then there's nothing on that next day, and we have extras that are on the road that we travel with, we're able to put some stuff in that travel trunk, like the bands and things like that. We have an Anchor, that travel cable machine that we're able to use, and things like that. So Boston does provide a lot of stuff, a lot of resources that way. The catapult is new as of last year for us down in the AHL, the new heart rate system. So they have started to put some serious resources into the performance department. And obviously that's no small part for, Kevin Neal's efforts up there in Boston. Yeah.
Kevin's a good guy. Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, again, look to the archives. Kevin and I had a great conversation not too long ago. So I'm curious, like, we've got the Santa Cruz Warriors and their development team for Golden State. And the cool thing about being in Santa Cruz, you can go to a game and you can see some of the top-notch players in the NBA that are playing just to get back into the game after an injury. It's kind of like this is their return to play phase. And just before peak performance, they're getting some court time in the D League, and then once they're kind of they meet all the metrics and they've done all the true assessments to know, okay, you're back in the game. Then they move back up to San Francisco and play in the NBA. Same thing with the Boston Bruins and Providence Bruins. Is that how it works? Like, you've got some injured players, they drop them down to the AHL for their rehab recovery, and then they move back up again, or is that a different kind of method?
It's I'd say it's pretty rare. It's happened once when Tuukka Rask was trying to make his comeback. He was sent down for like some rehab stints and things like that. But I think it's, that might be a team to team thing. But again, I think it's rare because we have a lot of resources going into those injured guys to rehab them and things like that. Where if they were to come down here, there's a little less resources, a little less time in the medical room, a little less time in a smaller gym with a little less fancy equipment and things like that. So yeah, like I said, it's not it hasn't never happened, but it's pretty rare for something like that to happen.
And what's your turnover rate with your team, like with the roster? How often is that shifting around where you are getting accustomed to your players and suddenly they get traded up or they get traded over to a different team? Is there a lot of shifting around during the season? Or do you pretty much what your roster is going to be like, and minus a couple guys here and there, they're going to stay with you for the season?
I guess that depends on how Boston plays, right? So you have and then it also depends on what kind of contracts guys are on and things like that. So there are times where we go a substantial amount of weeks where it's like this is basically our team, and then there are times where it's like these just like today where I showed up to the rink and 3 guys were called up and basically one was sent down. We pulled another one from our EHL team in Maine. But again, like a high turnover rate like this rarely happens. And then, but again, depends on how they're playing up in Boston, depends on, the trips they're taking up in Boston. So the longer, West Coast trips that they're on for a couple of weeks, they're going to take a couple extra guys just so they don't have to worry about moving guys back and forth cross country and things like that. So yeah, it depends, but there's always some turnover or possibility of turnover for at least a couple guys, but the core of the team kind of remains the same through the year.
What about the core of your conditioning program? Like, when you're talking about fundamental lifts or the core of your hockey conditioning program, what is at the core?
I'd say the schedule is at the core. The schedule kind of dictates what I'm able to do. So, our November and December schedules are notoriously horrendous, where they're basically on the road the entire 2 months. I think you look back on November and December, I think we probably lifted 4 times in those 2 months because that's the only time we were basically home or, home without a game the next day or things like that. Mainly because, like I said, we share our building with PC basketball, but also a lot of shows like Disney on Ice and things like that. And it sounds ridiculous where you're like, really, you're getting kicked out of your rink for Disney on Ice, but it's in the AHL, it's about making money, right? You got to pay the bills. And sometimes some of these rinks pay the bills by those big shows and things like that. So so the schedule dictates a lot, but obviously we get the schedule at the beginning of the year and I'm able to plan kind of around that to make sure I'm hitting things correctly. So, the beginning of the year, there's obviously they're just coming back from camp and things like that, but we're looking forward towards November, and it's like, November we're gonna get 2 actual real lifts in here. So like, what are you gonna do for those 2 lifts? Well, that's the only time you're gonna be able to touch heavy weight, right? So you're limited to that. Like, that's all you got. Versus getting into February and March are relatively clean, where a lot of our games are played on the weekend, so we have a lot of clean full weeks of like, we can lift twice this week, we can lift twice this week, we can lift once this week, things like that. So the schedule is what dictates what I'm able to do throughout the year, and you plan ahead and you make sure you're hitting your all your residual training effects and things like that to try to really do the best you can at some point.
Are there weeks where there are 0 lifts?
Yeah, probably a handful.
Really?
Yeah.
And so is that the infrequency of resistance training on heavy loads? Does that present issues for you? Does that present any concerns, or is it just going, hey, we lift when we can and we make the best of it?
Yeah, I mean, both, right? I'm pretty concerned if we don't get a lift in, and then it's like, hey, this is our only opportunity to hit strength. You know, it is what it is. Like, if it's our only opportunity, it's better to do it and deal with the effects of it versus not do it and then just basically put off the effects of not doing it for another week or two. So a lot of that is a conversation with um everyone, but mainly, the leaders on the team and the coaching staff of like, hey, just letting you guys know, you guys might be a little sore with our gonna have to do a little bit extra warm up or cool down on these certain days, or I days like that, I basically just put it on the board saying this is going to be heavy and it's going to suck, but we got to do it. So just shut up and do it. And then we'll deal with it versus, um, if you just give them something to do and you don't tell them that, they're going to come the next day and be like, oh, I'm sore as fuck. What do we do? What's going on? Like, I can't play hockey now. We had this conversation before, right? Like it's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of, just putting the schedule out there and saying like these are the only times we can lift, so it's going to have to be heavy, and we'll deal with it. And then the times we can't lift, it's a conversation with the coaching staff to say like, okay, we can't hit these things, but there are some things we can do in the real world, right? What we got to hit speed, so let's do a little, let's pick some drills with some speed, or we got to hit a little bit of real world strength. All right, we're going to do a little like box out drills or battle drills or things like that. So you still try to do the best you can of hitting those training effects that you're trying to hit. It's just, you got to work with what you got. And if the guys are on the road for a week, it's all I got to work with are the practices that they're on the road for. So let's hammer in the practice plans and make sure we're hitting what we have to hit.
And what's the longest stint of travel that will occur during the season? Is it a week or is it more than a week?
I'd say it's a week, but there are times where it's like, 4 days, they're back for one, and then they're on the road for two, and then they're back for like a home game. So like you look at that and like that's, a week of not being able to lift, or, you know, 7 days of not being able to lift until that home game where you can do like a post game lift. Um, but yeah, generally I'd say a week is the longest, and then, everything kind of adds on to that.
And when it comes to coaching new, young kind of rookies or those in their first couple of years, and I would say veterans or the older athletes that have been around, how do you approach that? Is there a difference between how you communicate with these two demographics?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at, we have a couple guys that have been in the league for, you know, 15 years, right? You're not going to go tell that guy and say like, oh no, like we're going to do this today. That's more of a conversation of like, this is the quality I want to hit today. Like we got to do some strength work on your lower body. What do you want to do? Or this hurts, this hurts, this hurts, this feels good. Okay, we're going to do that one. Versus the young guys, it's more of like this is what we're going to do. This is why we're doing it, and we're going to do it the right way. And then if something hurts, we're going to figure out why that hurts, or if something doesn't feel good, we're going to do that. Or, we have a lot of, you look at some of these European guys that have come over and haven't touched a weight in their lives, and they've gone to this point. So they're like, well, why am I going to lift heavy now? Like I haven't done anything, and I'm at this point. So it's more of like the learning curve of kind of getting them into the league and knowing that what they've done now isn't going to get them to that next step, things like that. So I'd say the younger guys is a lot more teaching, and being an actual coach, and the older guys are a lot more of like a conversation of, what have you done, or what do you want to do, and that's based on, what they've done their entire careers, to the point where they know if they do something they're going to feel good, versus if they're going to do something else they're going to feel bad. And I take that as a huge learning opportunity of like, this is what I think works, but you're saying it doesn't work, so why is that? And then we kind of dig into it. And I'm fortunate enough where a lot of our veterans are just unreal guys, where they're willing to have that conversation of like, this is why. This is the why behind it. You put a workout in, I'm going to do nothing you're putting up, but this is why I'm doing it. And then there's that, like, I get to look kind of 15 years down the line of like, this works for this guy. I wonder if there's something there.
Interesting. Yeah, we're talking about a great learning experience, and I'm curious too about the European player buy-in. where you mention it like, okay, well, you haven't done any resistance training up until this point, and this is as far as you've gotten in your career. So, what other elements are you missing? What other things that could tip the scales in the direction you want to go in? Could this be one of them? Is that kind of the conversation you'll have with him? Like, let's give this a try and see if this ups your game a little bit. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, we can look at other options.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different conversations that happen throughout the year and then throughout that player's progression through the AHL and into the NHL. And each player is different. Each player responds to different kinds of talks, and sometimes you got to have the body talk, and sometimes you got to sit down and say like, hey, what you're doing isn't good enough. Like, I need a little more out of you. It's time to not be a little buddy. It's time to be a little bit of a coach figure here, and kind of put your foot to the floor here a little bit. So there are a lot of talks and a lot of talks that happen, different talks throughout the year, and we're fortunate enough where we have a solid player development staff like Adam McQuaid, right? Started in the AHL, went to the NHL, won a Stanley Cup, did things the right way, was an unreal guy. Like, how do you not listen to someone like that when he tells you that, like, we should do this. This is probably the better way, or, this is why I want you to do this, and things like that. And, he's one of those guys that kind of travels back and forth, but he spends a lot of time in Providence with these young guys. And he's an unreal resource to not only have him talk to people, but also, this is an issue I'm having. How do you think I should bring it up with him? And then you kind of get that player's perspective of, I think this would be the most effective for this guy, or I think that would be the most effective for that guy, and things like that.
Right on. And with your position as performance coach, what's the average kind of length of stay, if you will? I mean, it's something that you took over for somebody else, who took over for somebody else, and in your career path, what's the average time that somebody stays in that position?
We have some guys that have been here for 10 years and they're happy, right? I think I don't know his name. I think the Syracuse guy has been there for like 12, 13, 14 years, versus Tim, who was in my position, is up in Boston now, was here for 3 years. So I think it varies. I think probably like that 3 to 5 year range is probably average. But again, that depends on, if you're willing to travel to other states, to other teams, or if you want to wait out who's in the NHL spots in your organization, or if you're content with where you are, you like the AHL, or you got a family in Providence that you want to stay here, and it's like, oh, I'm happy here. I mean, it's obviously not the top level, but it's still a great team, a great building, a great ownership group, close to Boston, things like that. So it really just depends on what your goals are, and what you want to do, and what you're willing to do to get to those goals, and things like that.
Yeah, what are your goals?
I want the NHL. Obviously, I made that pretty clear to everyone, and everyone that I've made that pretty clear to has been an unreal resource to help me get to wherever I want to be in the NHL. You talk to Kevin, Tim up in Boston, and they've been unreal to two incredibly smart people that have been in the not only the organization, but the fitness world for a very long time. So they're incredibly willing to sit down or hop on a phone call and answer a bunch of questions. Obviously, Kevin, Tim, and I have to talk about our day-to-day stuff every now and then, and go over things like that for our jobs, right? But outside of that, of just networking outside of the organization to different teams and things like that, obviously, growing up outside of Boston, being in the Boston Bruins organization for as long as I possibly can be would be unreal. But I can only control one side of that equation, and those two guys up in Boston are unreal at what they do. So that's the goal. But like I said, there's only one side of that equation that I can control. So yeah.
Sounds like you're controlling it pretty good, Pat, pretty well for sure. Now, when it comes to your daily routines and in your job, what is the thing that just shoots you with adrenaline? What's the thing that you're like, I am in it. This is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love game days because you get to play a game at the end of it, right? There's that high energy, everyone's juiced up. Like even if you had a bad day outside the rink, you're coming into the rink at night ready to go and things like that. So um I love game days, I love the game, I love the the presentation of the game and things like that, like the hype videos and things like that, and loud music, flashing lights, things like I mean that stuff really gets me going, and that's a huge perk of the job.
And you sit right behind the glass, right down at rank level.
So what I track time on ice for our team, for our games.
Got it.
Away games are a little tricky where I gotta find like a good spot for the Wi-Fi, so I can connect to the computer down there, but also like a good spot that I can see the bench and things like that. So I gotta try to figure out ways to get around crowds and things like that away for some away teams. Some away barns are pretty good where they have like a designated area for a press area that has good line of sight to the bench, because that's where I'm mainly focused on, because I want to see guys coming on and off the bench and things like that.
So you've got a software program that has like timers next to every player's name, and you click the green or the red button when the rotations occur. Is that how that works?
It's so I have an iPad that's remote controlling a computer that's in the coach's room, and that computer it's a catapult program, and it basically just gives you like the lines, and you touch the guy when he steps on, touch the guy when he steps off. So when the guy's on, you hit it, that name turns green, and then it's tracking that guy, and then when he steps off, you hit that name again, that green turns to white or whatever the background of the program is, and that guy stops tracking ice. And then that they can link that to like their shifts, so they can go in and look at this was shift 1, this was shift 2, where it links with the video if our video guy is linking it correctly with his computer programming, things like that. But that's way above my nerd level there, so I let him handle that. But yeah, our home barn is good, where it's basically the tunnel that leads out to the bench. There's a spot up the top where I set up a table, and it's just I'm 10 feet away from the bench, but high, because I'm on top of the tunnel, so I can see over like the equipment guys' sticks and things like that. So our home barn is a good setup. Away barns are a little tricky depending on what barn you're going to, but yeah, that's what I do during the game. So I'm out there, and I'm out in the crowds for the games for us.
I can see how that could benefit the coaches in regards to strategy and who you rotate in at what time and how much they're participating and so on. But how does it apply to you? Do you receive insight from this information?
Yeah, there are some times where it's like, man, like because we get that time on ice. The only reason I do time on ice is because we get it immediately. If I didn't do it, there's a program that the league utilizes, but we get it the next day, so we don't have like that immediate feedback of how many minutes the guy played. But we also have catapult during the game, so I have that data as well immediately after the game to run. But if you're playing under 10 minutes, there's the opportunity for an extra bike. But at the same time, in the AHL, it's usually play the next day, and sometimes you even play the following day. So I'm looking at a guy of like on a Friday, where this weekend where we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday games,
Yeah.
and most guys are going to play all 3 games back to back to back. So even if you played 9 minutes on Friday, do I want to give you an extra bike after the game, knowing that you're going to show up the next day for morning skate, you're going to play the next day, and then you're going to play the next day? It's like, probably not. Versus if it's like a Friday and we have a Saturday off, and you're skated 6, 7, 8 minutes, okay, we have a day off tomorrow, or we're just practicing tomorrow, you're going to ride the extra bike. Or those are usually good opportunities for post game lifts and things like that. So that immediate feedback does give us a little bit of insight into who's playing what. But at the same time, this deep into the season, you kind of already know those guys that are playing less, and some of those guys that are playing more, and things like that. But yeah, it does give us, like I said, that immediate feedback.
And then when it comes to the off season, come June, July, August, so on, through your summer months, what's your lifestyle like?
So my first off season here, we had a guy that was here rehabbing from an Achilles tear. So he was in the gym basically every day through that. So I was in Providence with him every day. A couple of guys, came and went. There were some guys that were here for, I'm here for 3 weeks, or I'm here for 2 weeks, or I'm here for a month, and things like that. But that was the main goal of that off season, was to get him back up to speed. So I was in Providence. Last year, there were times where guys were in Providence and times guys were not in Providence, and times where guys in Boston. So there was a lot of time spent in Providence, a lot of off time, and a lot of time spent in Boston. We always have a conference right around June. Strength coaches, trainers, like it's just the basically, the trainers and staff members of professional hockey have a conference. So we always have that. That's about 3 or 4 days in June. But other than that, that's the time where it's family time or relaxing time, or outside of the 3 to 4 hours you're spending in the rink with the couple guys training. That's more or less the time to relax and see the people that you don't get to see during the year, because during the year there's no time off, right? Like no one's taking vacations or going to see family, or it's just, this is our schedule. If it's a game day, it's a game day. If it's practice day, it's a practice day. And that's basically it. It's the, show up at training camp. Your next day off is Christmas. The next day off is All-Star break. And the day off after that is when you get eliminated from the playoffs or you win the fucking thing. So that's basically it.
Right on. And how's the team doing right now?
Right now, both teams are doing pretty good. Again, this is my third season. I've been fortunate enough to be on really good Providence Bruins teams, and obviously, everyone knows Boston has been doing pretty good. So, yeah, we're doing pretty good. It's a good core where Providence is young and skilled with a handful of the grizzled vets. So it'll be an interesting combination. We'll see what happens at the trade deadline here in a couple weeks, and then it's all hands on deck till playoffs. The one thing that we haven't done is, last year we got the first round bye in the playoffs, and then that series after that we were eliminated. And in my first year we were eliminated in the first round. So the one thing Providence has not done in the last couple of years has made it through their first series of the playoffs. So that's a bucket list item to win.
All right. Well, hopefully
playoff.
that bucket will be filled this season too. Pat, this has been great. If people want to kind of check out your work or follow you, I'll put the links to the description below the podcast, including the Providence Bruins website and all. But how do they follow you? Do you got an Instagram page? Again, you're probably too young for Facebook, so maybe not there. But LinkedIn, obviously, I'll put your page in there too. But any handle for Instagram?
Yeah, I think my Instagram is just Pat X Dugan. But fair warning, it's mainly pictures of my dog and my family on Instagram. It's not a lot of in the gym. So that's something I do have to. I actually took over our strength and conditioning association's podcasting and website roles. So shameless plug for that. But like I said,
nice.
So that's that. So
that's what's the name of the podcast?
It's called SCAP, Strength and Conditioning Association of Professional Hockey. So look that up. That also has an Instagram. I can get you the handle on that so I don't misspell it here. But that's mainly where you'll find the training stuff of not only me but of everyone that works in pro hockey, but also high level hockey. So we'll get a lot of D1 coaches and coaches that have been at the top of their profession for a while to gain their insights, because you can always learn something. It doesn't have to be the people in your exact field. But again, I started in this field just walking into people's gyms and asking them for help, and I think the way you do that these days are probably sliding into DMs or hitting me up on Insta or on LinkedIn or anything like that. So I've had a couple of people reach out, but I'm always willing to help out because people were willing to help me out when I was first starting, and they're still willing to help me out. I'm relatively new in this field and still learning. Obviously, hopefully, we'll never stop learning, but for sure in my learning phase of the career. So, always willing to help out and extend the ladder down.
Right on. And if you had mentioned earlier that you don't have any interns, is it because you don't have an internship program, or you just don't have any interns?
It's because we don't have a program, but that has been a constant point of attack for me to try to get some sort of internship program. Not only because we need the help, need an extra pair of hands, but like I said, people helped me out when I was asking for help, and started off with some amazing internships and fellowships and things like that. And obviously, coming from that Mike Boyle's tree, he does everything through his internship program, which is an incredible source of knowledge. So the goal is to for sure get an intern.
All right, then for those listening to Pat right now and you want to do it, why don't you become an intern to create the internship program for Pat? I mean, how great would that be to have somebody actually come in and help you to create something that they could do too? This has been great, Pat. I really, this is and from one Bruins fan to another, I just wish you the best in this season. It's going to be fantastic for both teams. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Appreciate the opportunity. Fun chat.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Zealous Podcast. I want to thank Pat and the Bruins organization for making it happen. Remember, go to SatantaCollege.com and put in RS10 for 10% off your tuition today. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Rocky_Snyder. Click the subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.